Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. I am thrilled to have Tia Christopher all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I should say all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's like more Australia's all the way over here, right? But it's Thursday evening in Pittsburgh and it's Friday morning here. So we're right here in the present moment, past, future, ignore that. Here we are. And yeah, it's great to have you here, Tia. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and good morning.
Yeah, I know it's so funny. And summer and winter, right? Um,
Yes,
Lots to unpack here. Let's just kind of I really like to always celebrate, where you're at and, kind of, what's coming ahead. But you're the founder and CEO of the Op Collab. Love that name. I have to ask you about how you come up with that name as well, which is in its infancy in terms of it's only 12 months young. I won't say old. And it's a human first operations collective that essentially helps more mission driven companies scale what I like to say consciously and sustainably so that we don't have that burnout and that disconnection that we're going to get into. But also, you've got a background in ops, operations, production, and high growth creative businesses, which I'm very familiar with myself. You've spent years thriving in the behind the scenes leadership roles and where you've brought other people's visions to life. But when you've stepped into your own company and become the CEO, and everything's changed. It's like what's become possible, right? Like it sounds. I really love this story of what Australians call it. I don't know if they do in the US the underdog, and then it's like you're coming out on stage or becoming the lead singer. So today you blend what I understand is executional excellence with what I like to call soulful led leadership, and you support founders and teams to build aligned, purpose-fueled operations. And your leadership is deeply grounded in this radically transparent and also it's shaped by the unexpected journey from being a number two to a founder and a CEO. Lots in there, lots to unpack. Tell us your journey. Tell us how you've gone from, essentially being an employee to then founding and finding the OpCo Lab. What's that been like? You've answered my pod question with such. I was so excited to talk to you, and I'll read it out shortly. But you'll probably just talk about it anyway, and I probably won't need to. But yeah, just tell us everything.
I would love to. So I started my career in I worked on and off in both the private sector and nonprofits, and I learned strategic operations along the way and really thrived in it. And I think it's because to to not use a better analogy, but I am like a dog with the bone. It's I really want to perform and to execute what my boss wants. You have an idea, you have a vision, exciting. So where I made a name for myself was I'd have founders who had a concept and I could take it and turn it into an organization. So you have an idea, I can turn it into programs. I can hire a team. I can then get it funded. Now I can grow it. And for me, like all those little pieces were really exciting and I enjoyed bringing an idea to life. But it never occurred to me to bring my own idea to life. And that really happened after two layoffs. And in the States, we have the saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Or I I had to ask myself very honestly in the mirror, what can I do different? How can I create a different life to have a different outcome? And what kind of idea do I want to grow? And that led to me founding the Orange Peel Collaborative or the OP Collab. And that whole idea comes from there's different ways to peel an orange. It doesn't mean my way is right, your way is wrong. Let's just get to business. And so that's how I approach it, where I really want to bring people together from the get-go, find our commonalities, and then get to work and create something.
Oh, how cool. How cool. Like I love that whole like story how you came up with the orange peel collab. And sorry, I just called it straight away the op collab, but I'm like, yeah,
Love it. Love it.
I love that your analogy around the orange peel, which is almost coming from a lived experience as well, right? What did it feel like for you when you had to take stock and kind of go deep within and really kind of go, what do I want? What do I want here in my life? And what do I want from, my career and my work? Was that like a lot of soul searching? Like, was it something that, like were you kind of did you think you were resisting it and you had some fear around it? Like, and then it was almost like, oh, actually, I need to be doing this myself now. Like what was what came up for you?
Um, Honestly, and I'm a very blunt and frank person. I enjoyed a decent amount of success throughout my 30s, and um, not only did I get laid off back to back, but I also had experienced some other loss in my life. And so I was living in Mexico for about almost 4 years, and you can totally unpack a whole lot of things there. But I had had a really lovely life where I was COO of an international organization. I had a great life and was making good money. I was a digital nomad, and that all came to an end when my entire team was laid off, including myself. And then my two cats died in a freak accident.
Mm,
And I had to relocate back to the States because the only work I could find, I had to be physically in the US. And the culture shock from from Mexico to the US during winter was brutal. And I had worked for a time, very cool project actually, with the AI Institute's virtual organization. But then I got another ops job and it was taking off, and then I was laid off again. And I was broke. And being in my early 40s now, I hadn't experienced financial insecurity in over a decade. And um, it made me be really vulnerable and to actually break it all down
mm,
and really be open to building it all up. I adopted a cat. I started a new workout routine, established new workout goals. I'm super into hot yoga. So every
same. I love
morning,
it.
yes. So I started my morning with my hot yoga and built my whole schedule around my hot yoga schedule so that was how I was starting every day and focusing in and then rebuilding my life and what this could look like. And that's how I ended up in Pittsburgh from California. Was I researched where were the best cities, mid-sized cities in the United States for tech startups. And Pittsburgh checked my boxes. It is a burgeoning tech hub. It's the robotic center of the world. Look that up, Australia. It's so
Yeah.
random, but
Yeah.
very cool. And so I decided I am going to position myself in every way possible to create this new life for myself.
I actually absolutely love it because it so aligns to my own lived experience. And you've almost gone from one form, like, and then and then you've gone and become what I call formless. You've gone and gone, all right, well, that's no longer serving me. This has happened, that's happened. Reimagining and creating what your new world looks like. And then as part of that, what's your life and how work fits into your life ultimately is what we're talking about here as well, right? Like you can still be super successful and you can still ultimately thrive. But, even I did it too, like in terms of like the hot yoga or the active recovery and having that as like your core central, like this is how it starts and then building everything around it. It's like those micro things that then start to build out and then you kind of start to go, I can see all the pieces of my world coming together now. And so tell us about, I'm going to jump straight into this question that you answered for me when you booked in for the pod. And you, because I totally relate to this also, and you were like, I always identified with being a number two. Being a COO was my sweet spot. I'd like to take a CEO's vision and execute it, and that's where I always saw myself. But now being a founder and a CEO is like going from 2D to 3D. That really got me going, like when I read this. It's not a path I ever expected, but I feel like I'm finally doing what I always meant to. And the reason I've come into this question is because it's almost like you had a calling when you were going through your like formless phase, if you like. And it was like, when you were talking about, being laid off twice, the universe or something was telling you, come on, let's go, TR. You are meant to be leading. You are meant to be being a CEO. You are meant to be being a founder, but you just actually hadn't been able to see it. But then you've had this ability now to be able to like, yeah, like, so talk to us a little bit about and that's just my observation, by the way, of, yeah.
I feel like when you're a COO, it's I'm really good at following instructions, honestly. And if I don't see them, I can figure it out. And I love breaking things down from big pieces to little pieces and knocking out those little pieces and then looking at the macro, looking at the micro, all these little aspects I really liked. But when you in reality though, it really is, like I said, 2D. It's following instructions to a certain amount, degree, really. Whereas when you are the CEO of your idea, when it's your idea that you are growing, it's like you're developing the instructions as you go. Almost like I visualize like the steps or a bridge um building in front of your feet as you're walking, like, and that's that's scary. And if you actually think about it too much, then it's really scary. Like, that feeling when you're swimming in a lake where it's like, yes, I love the lake, but if you think too much about what is down deep, then you're like, oh crap. So, I
Yeah,
you
what's
only
like
think,
underneath, like my feet? What am I going to touch? Yes, I get it totally. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I also am a swimmer, always have been a swimmer. So, and I love, the feeling of the freedom of being in the water. So I love that freedom of having my business. But I also think it's not a bad thing to maybe not look too deep all the time. Because I choose what I want to focus on each day, each week. And it's really easy to get overwhelmed. And that's why you have to focus that overwhelm. And I think my COO skill set really helps with that. And that I can then be like, no, 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 we're breaking it down. We're breaking it down to this. This is what we're knocking out. But there's this weird balance, this dance with having that vision and getting excited. Like, I want to expand my business to Mexico, and I'm going to do that end of this year. Um, like, there's that huge piece, and then there's like, yes, but you need to do all of these little things. So
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting that you talk about that in terms of, it's like one foot in front of the other. And some days you might take, what is it? One step you take, what, two steps forward, however many back, like some days as well. In terms of that shift from being, what you called as a number two, and then moving into, ultimately the CEO and being a number one, if you like. What was like, were there limiting beliefs for you? Like, how did you break through? Like, how did you go, I can do this? Like, because, and we spoke briefly about this before the show, but I do recall quite a few years ago, before I became a managing director, I was told by, people in the business I was in at the time that I was a good 2IC. I was a really awesome 2IC, but I would never be a managing director. And I just remember that so vividly and being in the room with the woman who told me at the time. And I was like, who says? And it was like that shift I needed, or that kind of thing for me that was just like, I will prove you wrong. I'm not your traditional, CEO or MD, but I will. And I did, like, and so I wonder. if you had any limiting beliefs or you had to break through any blocks or barriers in order to be able to go, I can do this and I am more than capable of doing this.
I'm going to answer that two ways. One, I know I have a 20-year career at this point, and um, I have applied for CEO roles, and I've been told, but you haven't been a CEO, you've been a COO. But then when I've quite frankly been desperate and I need money, I couldn't get a more junior role because
You're
I've been a COO. And so I that's it's a conundrum where do I fit? And there's kind of a glut in COOs, there or even director of ops. It was very hard to get hired, and so I I was like, well, I am not getting hired as a CEO because I haven't been one, but who says I can't just be my own? Sometimes, a wise person once told me to pick my battles. And sometimes it's just like there doesn't need to be a battle. Like I'm just gonna form my own company. Like that's that's now that's eliminated. And there's a freedom in that. But I think something that I am still working on right now that but is equally as empowering is when I started my company, I wanted to bring together brilliant minds and consultants for these projects. And we're specializing now in AI, thoughtful AI integration. And what we really focus on preserving human jobs and asking questions and thoughtfully integrating, not just buying everything shiny. We don't partner with any tech company and are not spokespersons for their projects. We really lean into the change management aspect and
Yeah.
ask questions. But I was bringing together, this PhDs. I know these really talented people, and I was thinking I have to have these people on my team because I am not the expert. I am the business owner. I know operations. Now I'm running a company, but I am not the voice. I am not the expert here, and I'm learning that maybe that's not true. I I do have experience in what I'm selling, and I do have a point of view, and I do have an important voice in the space, and that's exciting.
How empowering that you've found your voice, right? Like in terms of, like again, you've been the backup singer, if you like, using that kind of as an analogy, and then all of a sudden you're now going, no, I do have a voice, and being able to feel empowered to to be able to share that because we need more of that. You've got this. You've got, it sounds like you've got huge amounts of experience. So why wouldn't you have a voice? And it sounds like people that you bring in the specialists. But this is for me where it's like that, we talked briefly as well around this interconnection of you can have all the various skills, right? And you can have the specialists. But it's kind of like it's diversity of thought, it's diversity of, kind of voice as well, and being able to put that together and then also being able to go, no, this is how we need to go forward, and having that kind of almost like that visionary, and you've done it for other founders. You've it's almost like you've done all these traineeships in the past to be able to enable you and allow you to be able to now go thriving in your own company. How do you how do you That's the question. I'm trying to get it out right now. It's more like, so how do you sense check, or like how do you continue to have the confidence? Like do you have, like, in terms of like back to limiting beliefs and things like that, is there any, like, do you, once you've made a decision, do you just go with it? Like is it the intuition that kicks in for you, like, because ops is so structured and it's very operational, right? And then sometimes you need to go with your gut or your intuition. And
So I like to say that how the orange peel works with clients is that we translate life experience into practical impact.
yeah, cool.
And I try to run my company that way as well. And I pull from my toolbox of life. So when I was in sales, I ran the whole Dallas market for a company. There were days where I'd be like, okay, going into this meeting. And I was like, you know what? I don't I don't have it today. Um, this is not a cold call sales day. It is not. It is going to be a I because I think you need to be honest with yourself when you're selling your company or yourself. You're not always in the sales mode. You know, there's some mornings where I'm like, yes, let's talk to all the people, let's go. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on that day. And there's other times where I need to be more quiet. I need to listen. I'm going to dig into my financials. I'm going to play with spreadsheets and nerd out for a bit, and you know that needs to get done too. And so I think you really need to listen to the moment and what's needed, and be honest with yourself that it's not always going to be a sales day. And my other trick is I was a lifeguard for a long time. Again, love the water. Don't like the bottom. I associate it with dead people, honestly, lifeguarding. But days where it was going to be a long, hot day where you're going to be in the chair all day, and I would wear dark lipstick. It was my war paint. It was my makeup. If it was going to be a long day in the chair, there's the lipstick. And you know what? We do the same thing in the boardroom and the office. And let's go. Like, use what you got, you know?
I like that. I like that. I don't know the dark lipstick, like just because it's going to be a long day, it's just like get into it, get it. You've got all these you've got like the obviously the collective and you've got business partners. Talk us a little bit around the collab component of your business.
Yeah. So the team that I mentioned that got laid off, we were firing on every cylinder. I loved my team. I loved the international group that we had brought together. We did some really cool things, like in collaboration with the Tony Blair Institute. We had written the AI framework for Ethiopia.
Wow.
So we were doing really cool things. Plus, my director underneath me, I mentored her in a lot of ways. And um, she's a brilliant person. And so when I started to build my company, um, I didn't want to do it without them, without my key team members. And so I went and found them, and they're in different countries. And I said, do you want to go on this journey with me? Because I can't imagine this journey without you, and I want to give you the respect that I think you deserve, and I want you to be my partners, and and you know, be a part of the collab. Let's go.
I love it because it's like you're only as good as the people around you, right? So like in terms of I always think about that. And once you've got that, it's like magic in a bottle and you can't like it's like that it's just you get into that flow like everything is just working. It's like oh, it's becomes effortless and that sounds like what it's like with your team. And so how do you harness that? Because you can't just it's not something you can just recreate tomorrow. So the ability to be able to bring a collective like that together where you're all in sync and you're all familiar with each other and you've got that kind of connection, but there's also that shared risk in terms of you're in this business, it's young, it's started, it's like I don't know, like like it's back to this one step at a time, one step forward. And I get the sense they're probably also cheering you on as the CEO as well of the business in terms of empowering you and, wanting to see you to absolutely succeed and knowing they're probably seeing in you what they always saw in you that you're now, that it's taking you to start your own company to go, hey, I can be this CEO as well. Is that would that be a good observation?
I think I want my business to be a vehicle for all of us to reach our dreams. um you know I see Lindsay is going to be a force in the sustainability space. Randon is one of the few techno social researchers in the world. And my goal is how can the orange peel make hit hit our financial goals so that we can fund really cool research that he wants to do.
Yeah, because
So
that's techno-social. Like, sorry, forgive me.
Um, I am not going to do it justice, but an application, for instance, is how can we use AI to really lean into tracking the African diaspora? How can we
Got it.
use quantum for social good? How can we look
Yeah,
at
cool.
the impact of tech on humans and how tech and humans interact,
Yeah, cool.
which is super cool. So I'm interested in the change management aspect of tech integration, and we don't have enough stats and research there. So he can really lean into that and help me track and nerd out and find patterns and ways to help companies succeed in this new era of AI.
Yes.
But in the but I want to give back to him and help him reach his dreams. Like that's what being part of the collab is that we're all on this bus, but at the same time, I want this bus to fund everyone else's buses.
Dreams,
So
yeah, I love it. I love it because you've started a business that is, or created a business that is in the future, in the new world, right? Like this old world, and you would see it going into businesses, and especially from, your background and your history, and you're shaping a business that is new world order, and it's really interesting when you brought up the whole, AI or tech integration, and then the human. Well, I mean, what are you seeing in terms of like, you've moved to a city for a reason from, like a thriving tech city. But yeah, what are you seeing in businesses? What are you seeing as kind of, are we still very much stuck in this old world? And yet, and there's a, I guess, are we still stuck in this? Are we still very much stuck in this old world? And by bringing your collective and your collab together, it's almost being able to then show the change and that it's not as complicated as it needs to be, and it can be quite a simple way to start to move into the new world order. Does that make sense, the question I'm asking?
yes, 100%. So what I've seen is uh, I've had very intimate conversations with CEOs who have trusted me with their thoughts, and I received feedback where a CEO has said, "I've received pressure from my shareholders to up level. I adopted this AI enterprise system, spent all this money on tech, laid people off because we don't need them anymore, and now." We're not hitting our ROI. I don't have the brain trust that it used to be here. My shareholders are like, you spent how much money? And now we're behind, and I don't know what to do. These are real conversations. And at the same time, there's a company that they are not my client, but that I've spoken with that I think is a really great example where they are a manufacturing business and they have found a way to integrate their um, their their older staff members who are approaching retirement age but have a knowledge base that literally doesn't exist anymore and is still very important for this business
Yeah,
while integrating some smart automation and robotics, and then working with the new workforce who learns more off iPads and has a different skill set to bring to their business. And they highlight all the strengths of these three components and are now making more money than they ever have by maximizing these three. So, what I do is I think they are a great example of how you can succeed in this new world. And what I do is I come into teams and I say, hey, have we talked to before you purchase the often the people purchasing are not the people doing the work. So have we talked to people doing the job? Are all our key stakeholders on the same page? Do we have a backup plan? Is this good for company culture? And again, these are not new questions, but I'm asking them in reference to AI and robotics adoption. And it is hugely needed in the space. And by asking these questions, workflows are less interrupted. There is more
yeah,
buy-in from the
100%.
boardroom to the factory floor. And then people are thriving with AI and keeping jobs.
Yeah, it's so true. Like I just thought about that, in terms of you can't have a system without a culture and you can't have a culture without a system, right? But it's interconnecting. Yeah, that's exactly. I've always had that philosophy. Like it's always been my as a leader. It's always been. It's true. You have to have both. And interestingly, that what you call out in terms of the intergeneration, like where we've got that many different generations, we've got the most we'll ever have, I think, in business now as we speak. And it's like, how do you harness it all? How do you bring it all together? Because there's the older experience that is still required, but then there's this younger generational experience. It's like, oh, okay, well then how do we merge the two? How do we interconnect the two together? But ultimately, what we're talking about here is that, bringing all aspects of the business, and we were talking about this before the meeting, rather than having it all disconnected or disparated in different ways, it's like, how does it all come together? Because I've seen it too. You go into, workflows, oh, we've got this new shiny workflow, till the next thing it's like it's causing chaos in terms of it's slowing people's optimize, efficiencies down, lack of engagement, all of that. So I love that it is about asking the deep questions, isn't it? And it's absolutely about then how do you interconnect it together? And I think that's important. I don't know what your thoughts are on that in business, but I think we need more of pausing and not slowing things up, but having the ability to pause, like you say, ask the questions, do the discovery, analyze it so that you can go from being disconnected to an interconnected and then, you know, get the results that you're looking for.
A wise person told me, slow down to move fast. You know, I think when we pause to ask the questions, then we can avoid costly mistakes that slow us down. So, and it can be so tempting to just, go, go, go. But when we stop for a second and we assess, and, going back to yoga, when we breathe, and I try to do a whole lot more listening. I think when I was early on in my career, I wanted to be the loudest voice in the room. I had so much to say and I had so much to prove. And I find just now I've recently made a pivot with my business, just operations funding wise. And that came about by me slowing down and listening and taking a beat, taking a pause, and finding finding that path of least resistance and leaning into what is my skill set. What Whenever I try to force something like, oh no, I can do this, I can make this work, that's rarely the path. But when I lean into what I'm good at and what flows, it works out. And I don't think that's necessarily super profound, but I just was reminded this week just how true it is. When I took a minute to breathe, when I just listened literally to the wind, I the path opened up and I am being even more productive and less stressed out.
It's so true. You know what's so funny? I actually put my little, because I've got a whippet. I bought him a turtle the other day because he had an accident running because he was just going so fast. I was like, yeah. It's just for both of us, like to slow down and take the pause and slow and steady wins the race. And so it's quite significant, this little turtle. He absolutely loves it. But just listening to you then, it's such a simple thing, but yet we just don't take, I love the term the beat or the pause enough. And I'm exactly the same as you. And I think that we've come from a society and a culture of hustle, 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 push, push, push. The more you do, the more you'll get the answers when actually, no, that's not true at all. And it took me a very long time to realize that. But the
Yeah.
minute we do slow down and pause, the answers actually come to us. We get those fresh perspectives. It is the path to least resistance, is exactly like you're talking about. But I still feel that many businesses and many leaders are still holding on to that hustle push push because it's having the ability to also let go. You know what I mean? And let go and trust, or, like that, it may not go exactly as you'd hoped or planned, but it will, but maybe a better outcome will come out of it. Maybe you'll get a better answer. Maybe it'll be a better solution. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, my, when my whole world fell apart, I mean, I had a lovely home in Mexico, a community of friends, making good money, loved my lifestyle, just and lost all of it but my friends. Um, and they are still like we voice note every day. And we're very, very close. I couldn't see how life could be good again or better or something like that. And I love my life. Granted, I still want to hit some goals and I want my company to be making the kind of money where I can digital nomad a little more again. Not gonna lie.
That's okay. It's good to have
However,
ambition. Yeah,
right? I need goals.
100%. Same.
But I love that I for the most part shape my day and I can go after these goals and no one's limiting me but myself. And I do have a penchant for male dominated fields. I was in the military. I was in sales in Texas, where often I've just been the only woman a lot. And now, where I am in the AI integration space and working with manufacturing, often I can be one of the only women, definitely one of the only women that looks like me, and and that's okay. And I and
Oh,
I
yeah.
I don't mind it. Let's
Right.
go.
Yeah, let's go. All right. Yeah, let's go. Like it's who you are. It's your own personal identity. It's your brand. It's, this is I love it. Absolutely love it. What would be like we've talked a lot in terms of just various aspects around reshaping ourselves from, that comes from adversity, then also like looking at businesses and, being able to pause and kind of ask the right questions to get the right result. What would be a piece of advice you would give? And I'm jumping around again because there's all these thoughts that keep dropping into my head because I'm allowing myself. It always happens. It's so weird. It's so weird when I go on the pod. It's like, ask this question, ask this question. Like it's like someone's talking to me. But as a newly found and clearly an emerging, new world order CEO, which is super exciting because we need a new world order of leaders, and I call them, soulful, high flow conscious leaders. What would be a piece of advice you would give to someone who was at that point of life's up in the air? I'm almost like the two I see, or the number two, I should say. What would be a piece of advice you would give someone who's in that situation right now?
I think take stock of all your different skills and all your different advantages that you have and how that applies to the market. So I was, COO of an AI organization. That's what led me into two other AI um, positions. And AI is of the moment. So I'm working with the skill set that I have. It's also smart business because AI is of the moment. And how can I make these things line up and work for me? At the same time, so I'm using what I have at my disposal. I'm being scrappy. I am also not trying to be something that I'm not. I'm leaning into what I have and what I am. But at the same time, I take every single opportunity I can to learn. There are so many free resources for entrepreneurs, so many. And I am learning. I would not be where I am if without all of these incredible organizations and people and diverse voices that I'm learning from, and just uh, the amount of things I've learned in a year. And if you're willing, it's really out there, and there's so many resources at your disposal. So be open to them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And last question, what does the Orange Peel Collective look like in 12 months time? I know that's like it's like I know it's like what how can you even predict what anything's going to be like in 12 months time, but what do you see it looking like?
So, my uncle chuckled when I said this on another podcast, but I mean, I plan to hit $1 million. And I mean, right now we're very far from that. But this is the tech world, and things can change very quickly. And I believe that we will get there. We will also be in both the US and Mexico. And I am very, very excited about that.
I've never been to Mexico. I want to get to Mexico. I love Mexican food. I love, yeah, I've never been. Can you believe it? So who
You
knows?
have
Yeah.
you have to go.
Yeah. Thank you, Tia. How do we find out more about the Orange Peel, the Up Collective, and you?
You just go to www.theopcollab.com,
So
and you'll find oh, a collective collaborative. It's all the same, but www.theopcollab.com. We are on LinkedIn, barely on Instagram, but you can also find me, Tia Christopher, on my personal LinkedIn page. And I would love to hear from anyone. And B, I really hope that we continue the conversation, because I would just love to have you in my life. You're awesome.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was like I said when I was reading your emails, I was like, and your energy, like it's like I can't stop smiling. Because it's just it's radiating, right? Like it's and this is what it's about. This is what business is about. This is what life's about. Like your vibe attracts your tribe. You know what I mean? Like that's my big thing. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So, anything's possible, which is what you're talking about and today, and it is possible. And you will hit that goal in 12 months time. I've got my own big aspirations and goals. And it's like, who says? Just I think it's just being uniquely you and go for it. Like why wouldn't you? Like we're at it's like the most exciting time ever. And we can either choose to sit and not do anything with it and be fearful, or we can just go, I won't swear, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to go for it. Like, I nearly dropped it, but I won't because I'm not going to. So thank you
It's
so
incredibly
much.
freeing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. But Tia, thank you so much. Hopefully you get to go and have a bit of a swim now. Like versus here, it's like the thought of going swimming right now is like freezing cold in Melbourne. So, but thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat today, and yes, we will definitely stay connected.
Thank you so much, B.
Thank you.